I never planned to fall for him. He's off limits. Untouchable. But every time I look at him, I forget who I'm supposed to be. They see me as the woman who has it all: power, money, and the kind of respect that makes grown men lower their gaze. But behind closed doors, when the lights go out and the silence settles in, I'm just a woman with a dangerous craving I can't silence. I am Stephanie. A wife. A stepmother. And this is the story of how I crossed a line I can never uncross. Hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, do well to subscribe and hit on notifications. To all my returning subscribers, thank you for always watching my videos. People think when you have money, power, and the kind of name that opens any door, you have it all. But they forget we're still human. I married Jackson 2 years ago. My second marriage. His first. He was charming, soft-spoken, and 10 years younger than me. A small-town man with quiet dreams, happy to let me lead. First, that worked. I didn't need another man trying to compete with me. I needed someone who wouldn't mind being in my shadow. And Jackson? He played the part well. He made me dinner, waited up for me after long meetings, kissed me softly at night. But the fire was never really there. I think we both knew it. And then came Jason. He moved in during his college break. A tall, handsome boy with fair skin, sharp cheekbones, and thick blonde hair that looked like it belonged in a magazine. He was Jackson's son from a past relationship, a woman he barely talked about. Jason had his mother's fire, though. You could see it in the way he walked, the way he laughed, the way he looked at me. First, I brushed it off. I was his stepmother, for God's sake. What kind of woman thinks about her stepson in that way? But every night it got harder to push it away. He'd walk around the house shirtless after workouts, sweat glistening on his chest like some cruel temptation. He'd tease me without knowing, complimenting my dresses, asking for career advice with that damn smile on his face. I told myself it was harmless. I was just bored, craving excitement. But it wasn't just that. I wanted him. And every time I lay beside Jackson, pretending to sleep, pretending to be satisfied, my thoughts drifted back to Jason. His voice. His hands. His eyes on me, longer than they should be. There's a line every woman in power walks between control and chaos. And I was starting to tip. Dinner that night was roasted chicken, red wine, and the sharp tension no one dared to name. Jackson talked endlessly about some car show happening downtown, how he was thinking of restoring an old Mustang with Jason. I nodded politely, stabbing my vegetables, trying to stay calm. But my eyes kept wandering. Jason sat across from me, freshly showered, his hair still damp. He wore a tight black t-shirt that clung to his arms and revealed just enough to make me shift in my seat. Every time he raised his glass, I watched the way his throat moved. And then he caught me watching. He didn't look away. He didn't blink. He smirked. I nearly dropped my fork. Was I imagining things? Had he noticed all this time? Or was this the first night he saw me not as Dad's wife but as a woman? A woman who wanted more than just a polite smile and small talk over dinner. Stephanie, he said suddenly, dragging out my name like it tasted sweet on his tongue. I've been meaning to ask. How do you stay so sharp in meetings? Dad told me you once talked a billionaire out of his own deal. Jackson chuckled, clearly proud. She's a killer in heels. Everyone fears her at the table. Jason grinned. I can see why. There it was again, that edge in his voice. That look. Not admiration. Not curiosity. Desire. I forced a laugh. It's all about control. Knowing when to lean forward and when to lean back. His eyes darkened slightly. I'd love to learn from you sometime. I felt my heart thud in my chest. Not from fear but from the thrill. After dinner, Jackson excused himself to take a call in the garage. Jason offered to help with the dishes. I should have said no. I should have walked away. Instead, I handed him a plate. He moved closer than necessary. Our hands brushed. A shiver ran through me. You smell different tonight, he whispered, low enough for only me to hear. I swallowed hard. Doi. He nodded, drying the plate slowly. Like temptation. I stared at him, frozen. A war raged inside me, desire battling dignity, lust strangling logic. He leaned in just slightly, just enough to make my knees weak. Then he stepped back. Good night, Stephanie. And he walked out, leaving me breathless, shaken, burning. That night I stood in front of the mirror, trying to convince myself it was a game. A silly, dangerous game. But some part of me didn't want it to end. Some part of me had already lost. It rained that night. The kind of storm that makes the windows shiver and the lights flicker. Jackson was out of town for a conference, something he mentioned 2 weeks ago that I had barely listened to. All I knew was the house was quieter without him, and Jason was still home. I tried to distract myself. I poured a glass of wine, opened my laptop, scanned through reports that didn't hold my attention for more than a few seconds. My mind kept drifting to him. His eyes, his voice, the way he looked at me at the dinner table. I told myself to go to bed, sleep it off. But I didn't go to my room. I went to his. I didn't knock. He was shirtless, lying on the bed, scrolling through his phone. His abs tightened when he saw me. Couldn't sleep? He asked, calm like he'd been expecting me. No. I whispered. You. He shook his head. Not really. The silence between us pulsed. The storm raged outside. Lightning flashed against his window, then faded into a soft, humming darkness. I sat at the edge of his bed, wine glass in hand, heartbeat wild in my chest. This is wrong, I said, though I wasn't moving. He leaned forward slowly, carefully. Then tell me to stop. I didn't. He took the glass from my hand and set it on the nightstand. His fingers brushed mine, warm and strong. Every cell in my body screamed at me to leave, but I stayed. When his hand touched my cheek, I closed my eyes. And then his lips were on mine. Soft at first, searching, then hungry. Years of restraint, power, and perfectly crafted control collapsed in a single moment. I kissed him back. I let him pull me down to the bed. I let my hands roam across skin I had only dared to imagine. And when we made love, it was not gentle. It was fierce, like something forbidden set free for the first time. When it was over, I lay next to him, staring at the ceiling, listening to the rain. Guilt hadn't hit me yet. Not fully. All I felt was the heat of his body beside mine, the steady rise and fall of his chest, the echo of my own heartbeat still thudding in my ears. I've thought about this for a long time, Jason whispered. I turned my head. You shouldn't have. I know, he said. But I did. And the worst part, so had I. The next morning, I woke up before him. The room smelled of rain and sin. His arm draped across my waist like we were lovers with no consequence, no past, no lines crossed. For a brief second, I let myself pretend this wasn't real, that I wasn't lying beside my stepson, that I wasn't the wife of a man I once promised to honor. But reality doesn't wait for permission. It always finds a way in. I slipped out of bed, heart pounding, and walked to the window. The storm had passed, but inside me, something even more dangerous was brewing. Jason stirred. Are you okay? I nodded. You need to forget this happened. His voice was soft. Can you? No. But I didn't say it. Instead, I gathered my robe and left his room like a thief, stealing something sacred and breaking everything I'd built just to feel alive again. The days that followed were filled with silence. I avoided his eyes. I avoided my own reflection. And when Jackson returned from his trip, I greeted him with the same practiced smile I had worn for months. Miss me? He joked, wrapping his arms around me. I nodded. Of course. Lie after lie. Smooth and easy. I was a master at them by now. But Jason, he had changed. He was distant around his father, polite but cold. Around me, his silence screamed louder than any word. I could feel his stare across the room. I could feel the guilt growing like a weed in my chest. One night, As I was brushing my hair, Jackson walked in holding my phone. "You left this in the kitchen," he said, handing it to me. "Thanks," I replied a little too quickly. He didn't leave. "I need to ask you something," he said, voice low. "Is there something going on with you and Jason?" My breath caught. "What?" I forced a laugh. "That's ridiculous." "Is it?" he asked, his eyes searching mine. "Because he looks at you like a man looks at a woman, not a stepson to his stepmother. And you haven't been the same." I didn't answer. I couldn't. The silence between us cracked something open. Jackson took a step back, like he already knew the answer and just needed to see it in my face. "I trusted you, Stephanie." I looked away. "You trusted the woman in control," I said, "not the woman underneath." He left the room without another word. It's been weeks now. The house feels like glass, fragile, sharp, and always on the edge of breaking. Jackson hasn't spoken to me since. Jason left for school early, saying nothing but goodbye with eyes that looked more lost than ever. And me? I'm still here. In my empire. In my silence. In the aftermath of a love I never should have felt. I have everything. Power. Success. Control. But somewhere beneath all that, I lost myself. Have you ever imagined yourself in this kind of situation? What did you do about it? Subscribe to this channel and hit on notifications for more interesting stories like this.